the whole schools of them, and millions of pounds swam into this place by some reason. I don't know what brought them, except Yahweh directed them. And then the oxygen ran out. Our predators chased them in, or whatever, technically. The problem is, though, that they are there. And when they die, they float. And then there's some that stay on the bottom, and then as soon as they dig off what they got, and they're trying to get it by hand because there's not any big machinery that can get in the place to get it out. And all of their boats, the guys that's living on the boats in there are bailing it with hand nets. But there's disasters that we haven't even dreamed of yet. He says, from which you will not remove your neck. In other words, when the disaster comes, we're not going to escape it. Neither will you walk haughtily, for it is an evil time. See, we won't bow up against it and walk haughtily and say we're not going to do it. We're going to walk like he says. In that day they will take up a parable against you and lament with a doleful lamentation, saying, we are utterly ruined. That would be a terrible thing for this nation to just fold up and say, we are utterly ruined. And we're so close to it. My people's possession is divided up. Indeed, he takes it from me and assigns our fields to traders. And we have many traders in our streets that would take our land over at the drop of a hat. Right now. We don't have to wait. It's already here. We got religion fighting against religion. We've already had the proof of it in 9/11. What can happen? We're getting the proof of it every day on the Mexican border with criminals killing people day after day, hour after hour down there. And we have more murder in the streets of Chicago than we do on the Mexican border. We have murder and crime going on in all of the major cities, everywhere. And this little old town here, we sound like Chicago was in 1930. As many people as died from senseless deaths. So we need to think about it. Think about it. He says, Micah 3:1, I said, please listen, you heads of Yaakov, and rulers of the house of Israel. Isn't it for you to know justice? He wants Israel to know justice and prepare for repentance. Justice comes from the Hebrew word mishpat, and it's pronounced judicially. It's especially to sentence, a formal decree, divine law, individual or collectively, including the act, the place, the suit, the crime, and the penalty, abstractly, justice. Justice will be meted out by the lawgiver, and that is Yahweh himself. He said, you who hate the good and love the evil, who tear off their skins and their flesh from off their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off them and break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot and as flesh within the cauldron. See, that's metaphoric for using people up. The hierarchy, the royalty, whatever government is, the royalty uses the common people up. That's what he's talking about. When they will cry to Yahweh, but he will not answer them. Yes, he will hide his face from them at that time because they made their deeds evil. He's going to save the poor man, but he's going to make their deeds, the one that did the evil deeds, pay for it. He said, thus saith Yahweh concerning the prophets who lead my people astray. This is the accusation to the prophets. He said, for those who feed their teeth, they proclaim shalom. And whoever doesn't provide for their mouth, they prepare war against them. You hear the story in our diplomatic negotiations. We want peace, but we wind up with war. We wanted peace in Iraq, we got war. We want peace in Pakistan, we got war. We want peace in Egypt, we got war. So how in the world can evil men negotiate and survive or win? He said, therefore, night is over you. There is darkness over these people. With no vision, they cannot see. It is dark to you, that you may not divine. The sun will go down on the prophets, and the day will be black over them. And these people that have made their living writing prophetical books, is all of them is going to be thrown in the garbage together, and they're not going to mean a thing. Yahweh is in charge of prophecy, and Yahweh's book is right here. He is the one that wrote these words, not us. We can't even figure them out. If He don't inspire us and show us, we'll never know it. He said, the seers shall be disappointed. Well, you know, I prophesied that the world was going to come to the end of the world last week, but it didn't come. What am I to do? See, that's the attitude they're going to be. He said, and the diviners confounded, yes, they shall all cover their lips, for there is no answer from Yahweh. But as for me, I am full of power by the Spirit of Yahweh, and of judgment and of might, to declare to Yaakov his disobedience, and to Israel his sin. And that is Yahweh speaking to His people. Please listen to this, you heads of the house of Yaakov. He's asking us, pleading with us as a nation. And rulers of the house of Israel, who abhor justice and pervert all equity. This message is for Washington, D.C. This message is from the state capital of every state in the Union. And yet, they're continuing in their iniquity. He said they build up Zion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity. Her leaders judge for bribes. That is an accusation. And her kohanim teach for a price. The preachers are preaching for a price. You know, if they get a $10,000 raise, the Lord told them to move to this other place. And her prophets of it tell fortunes for money. Yet they lean on Yahweh and say, is it Yahweh in the midst of us? And no disaster will come on us. Therefore, Zion, for your sake, will be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem will become heaps of rubble, and the mountain of the temple like the high places of the forest. That is the charge that Yahweh has done in the very first verse, and then I'm going to close. Micah 4:1. But in the latter days it will happen that the mountain of Yahweh's temple will be established on the top of the mountains, and it will be exalted above the hills, and people will stream into it. Many nations will go and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, and to the house of the Elohim of Yaakov, and He will teach us His ways, and we will walk in His paths. For out of Zion will go forth the Torah and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Baruch haba b'Shem Yahweh.